it's Ingrid here again from Beginner's Photography blog and Camera Shy. Last week's video we talked about what is shutter priority mode and where is it on your digital SLR camera. This week we're going to be looking at a few situations when you might want to use shutter priority mode as opposed to the program auto mode in your camera. If you can remember from last week, shutter priority mode is designated by an S or a TV on the mode dial of your digital SLR or advanced compact or bridge camera. In shutter priority mode, you control the shutter speed and the camera figures out what the aperture is going to be to match that so that you always get a good exposure, not too bright, not too dark. Your photo is going to be just right. Shutter priority mode is a good mode to shoot in if you're in variable lighting situations and so you want to always keep the shutter speed constant, or you want to play around with the shutter speed knowing that your aperture value is going to be taken care of. So when would you want to control the shutter speed? One very common example is when you want to slow down your shutter speed to convey motion blur in your image. Take a look at these two photos of a waterfall. The first photo was shot using program auto mode, and in program auto mode your camera usually just gives you a middle of the road exposure, so it's not going to be extremely blurry or extremely sharp. It's just going to give you aperture values and shutter speed values towards the middle range that's available. Now, in the second photograph you can see I used shutter priority mode, so I was able to control my shutter speed in this shot. And what I did was I slowed the shutter speed way down. I think this one was shot at around 1/20th of a second. And that slow shutter speed conveys a feeling of motion in the water. So the water appears like a mist or a stream of fog rather than static water droplets falling down. The camera calculated the correct aperture or f-stop for me, which freed me up to focus on just playing around with my shutter speeds so I could convey the type of shot that I wanted to by choosing different shutter speeds. So I experimented with slow shutter speeds, with fast shutter speeds, and eventually I thought that this slow shutter speed shot really conveyed the way that I wanted the image to look, which was that the water was flowing gently and nice and calm, and it was a serene waterfall, a serene place to be. So the main thing that you have to remember when you're shooting on shutter priority mode and you're using a slow shutter speed is that the only blur that you want in your image is intentional blur from your subject moving. So you don't want to have any blur caused by a shaky handshake or a shaky camera. And actually using a slow shutter speed, the actual action of you pressing your finger on the shutter button is going to be enough to cause camera shake. So you want to be able to negate that as much as possible, and the way you do that is by using a tripod. I'll give you a little insider tip. The general rule of thumb is that anytime you see shutter speeds that are slower than 1 over the focal length of your lens. Now remember, your focal length of your lens is here on the lens, the ring of the lens. You'll see what that focal length is. So 1 over the focal length of that lens. If your shutter speed is slower than that, that is going to tell you you cannot handhold your camera or you will get camera shake. So use a tripod in any situation than that. For a standard 18 to 55mm lens, that means you pretty much need to use a tripod if you're getting shutter speed slower than 1/60th of a second. So you use a slow shutter speed anytime you want to show intentional movement or blur in your image. I've selected a few photos here from Flickr so that you can see what I'm talking about and give you a feel for the times that you might want to use a slow shutter speed. It's so creative, and once you get to play with slow shutter speeds, you find that you want to use it in lots of different situations. It can really bring another dimension to your photography. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends all over social media, and be sure to check out the blog, Beginner's Photography blog, for lots more tips and tutorials on your digital SLR just like this one. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you get the next video right in your inbox. Until next week, happy snapping!